Everyone to the FloTrack podcast. I'm Kevin Sully. He's Gordon Mack. It's Wednesday, April 6th on the pod. Gordon up bright and early after a busy night editing the much anticipated NC State women's distance workout. Gordon, good morning. How are you?
Doing good. My arm hurts from editing. I don't edit a workout with a broken shoulder. Suggestion, but it's fine. I got through it. We're good. We're on to a new day. Today's Wednesday. Excuse me. I'm screwing up my days. And yeah, I'm excited for the weekend. We have some fun track meets coming up this weekend. We got great content on the site. Like you said, the Workout Wednesday is now live on YouTube and on our homepage. It actually was live on our homepage at like 1 a.m. last night. So if you were up late, you got a chance to see it. But yeah, we filmed the NC State women, Caitlin Toohey and company. It's actually two workouts. The first half is a workout with Marley Starlipper, Hannah Steelman, and Maria Hallett. They do like kind of a threshold workout. And then Caitlin Toohey, Kelsey Camille, Savannah Shaw, and everyone else does a different workout. The main workout was 5 by 800 and then 2 by 400, 200, 200. So, and yeah, it's pretty cool. They all run well. Caitlin and a few others do one extra rep because they weren't racing that week when we filmed this. This was filmed in basically mid-February because Tui didn't run until ACCs during the indoor season. So she ran a little longer in the workout because it wasn't race day. This was filmed the week before their DMR. That's when it was filmed.
Yeah, Valentine's Day, wasn't it? Or this was the day after Valentine's Day, I guess. It was a Tuesday. And a little behind the scenes here. As this workout was going on, Gordon walked by me. We were both there. And he goes, she's going to get second in both the 3 and the 5 at NCAAs. Trust me. I was like, what? Turned out to be right. So you learn a lot of stuff on these trips.
Exactly.
It's a good workout, though. A lot of fast people involved. And it was a solid session.
It's also just cool seeing like a group run well together. Like it wasn't just like Caitlin Toohey by herself and then everyone else. Like it was a group of 5 women at a time, 3 at the end, all running together, which is good. I mean, it makes sense. They won the national championship in cross country for a reason. But it's just cool seeing it wasn't an individual workout. It was definitely a team effort.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, all joking aside, you definitely could, if you didn't know this was the NCAA cross country champions, you could say, all right, yeah, that makes sense. Just looking at the depth of their pack and the strength of their pack and just how they were just clicking off those 8s, or that earlier group, how quickly they were clicking off those 12s. So fun workout. Hope people enjoy it on the site. We got more workout Wednesdays to come, and they're going to be running at Penn Relays at the end of the month too. So we'll get to see. We don't know who's running what, but we'll get to see them at Penn Relays against the Arkansas, BYU's, and many others.
Yeah, I'm excited to see them, whether they do the 4x8, DMR, 4x15. It should be exciting, especially with BYU there in Arkansas. It's going to be a good at least 3-way battle there in most of those distance races.
Yeah. Did you feel any pressure editing this one? Not because of your broken shoulder, but because people were on you from moment one once they figured out we were going to Raleigh. Like, when's the workout?
People thought,
when's the workout? How's it going?
I mean, when I broke my shoulder, they were concerned not with my shoulder, but with this workout. I was like, I had no idea the responsibility I had on my plate with editing a simple workout. I've edited so many workout Wednesdays, but this was the one of all workouts that had the most hype beforehand. It's like, it's just a workout, guys. It's gonna be okay. It's just one workout.
It's real life. So what's left here still? I mean, we got the Arkansas ones, which are pretty much already done, so you don't need to worry about that. We got a BYU feature. We have an Ole Miss distance workout as well too. We have North Carolina A&T coming in May, which maybe you'll be healed by then. And then we have Aaron Marsh, the Duke heptathlete, multi-event star, coming up And that's May as well, along with UNC. So you don't have that many left to do.
I do have a lot. There's a lot.
Okay, never mind. You do. I was trying to make you feel better. You have a lot of
No, it's
work
okay.
to do.
In fact, I have footage being delivered to me this afternoon by my colleague Brian to start editing one of the Arkansas men workouts. So it's a
Oh,
lot.
you'll breeze through that one. That was easy. That was straightforward. Indoor track. Boom,
Got
boom,
it.
boom. Yeah,
Boom.
I shot some of it, so that's perfect footage. Just slot that in there. Do you want to talk about the pickup contest? Or are we gonna wait on that until Friday, or do you want to mention it?
Well, we can mention it, but we don't have the code yet for you guys to enter. But we can tell you what the questions are going to be, or what we think they're going to be. I'll just tell you what
Do
the
it.
questions are going to be. It's basically going to be who's going to win the men's 100, who's going to win the women's 100 at the USATF Bermuda Games this weekend on Saturday. It's a stacked field. We're going to break down the fields later on in this pod. And yeah, it's going to be a very simple question: who will win the race? And
Hmm.
there's a lot of people to choose from, right? Obviously, you have Ronnie
Yeah,
Baker's in the mix. I think Noah Lyles is there, a few others. So it's going to be an interesting um, crew of characters to choose between for this
yeah.
upcoming meet in the Bermuda. Have you ever been to the Caribbean, Bermuda area?
I have not been to Bermuda. No. Have you?
Apparent, apparently, it's like just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Florida. Apparently, it's very close to Florida. That's what I heard. You would
Let's see.
think
Let's
it's
see.
like in
Flight
some
time.
exotic location, like in the middle of nowhere, like
Flight
Fiji.
time.
But Bermuda is actually you could like swim there. Maybe you can't swim there,
Oh, you can't
but
swim. Flight time. It's 3 hours in the air from
okay,
Miami.
yeah, you can't swim.
So that's a
That'll be
long. That's a Ulamar Rojas hop, skip, and a jump away, or a Christian Taylor hop, skip, and a jump away. That's not a ordinary person's hop, skip, and a jump away. 3 hours is still pretty
that's
far.
far. What there's a
Yeah,
isn't there a country though that's really close to Florida they can swim to? I thought there was.
there's a lot of countries that are close to Florida. I think those are farther in south in the Caribbean. Bermuda's
Oh,
Bermuda's pretty far east.
okay. I'm bad with my
Yeah,
geography.
I don't know if you want to pull it up on a map, but it's pretty far out there. You're thinking of like the Bahamas, I think. Could it be that you're
Maybe
thinking
that's
of
what
the
I'm thinking.
Bahamas?
Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm
And,
just my brain is all mush because I didn't get much sleep last night. That's probably what it is.
and
So
and you're short on shirts. You told us that on Monday. You're short
I
on
am.
shirts.
Yeah, I'm this is my shirt. I'm wearing throwback the FloTrack. Remember this meet? The FloTrack throwdown. We did it like
Mm-hmm.
in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Has the old logo, the old Flow logo. Funny story about this shirt. They made two versions. They made the shirt. Obviously, it's a large, but
Mm-hmm.
when they were passing them out, they gave me Ryan Fenton's shirt, and Ryan was wearing like a smaller medium. And I put it
Mm-hmm.
on, and I was like, "What is going on?" I couldn't fit inside the shirt, and it turned out I was
Yeah.
wearing Ryan Fenton's shirt the whole time. And then halfway through
Different
the
body
meet,
types.
we realized we're wearing each other's shirts because he was kind of like drowning in his shirt, so we had to switch shirts mid meet.
That's terrific. That's terrific. You brought up the Bermuda Games. We're going to get to that later on. We'll do a preview of what to watch there. We'll also talk about some scratches at the Boston Marathon, Athing Mo running at the Penn Relays. But first, update on a story from Monday. We talked about Elias Garcia, the Mount Sac sprinter who competed last weekend. His time got reported out as a 9.88, although no times were listed on the official meet website. We were waiting to see, hey, is this going to get picked up by World Athletics? Is it going to get picked up by any other statistics service? And World Athletics, as of yesterday, has him leading the men's 100 with 9.88. Direct Athletics, TFERS, still has it listed as a no time. The meet itself has marks for a lot of events. It didn't used to have any events, but it has a lot of events, but not in the 100 or 110 hurdles. Those are still blank. Um, so I was a bit surprised to see this get added in. Now, here's the good news. I think he's running this weekend. So we're going to figure out pretty quickly what the situation is with this athlete. Again, important to reiterate, not his fault. He just ran as fast as he could, and that's what was reported. So, hey, you take the PB when you can get it, and if you can be a world leader, why not? My question to you, Gordon, what time would he need to run this weekend that would cause you the most confusion at this point? Because if he runs a 10-4, okay, it's settled. If he goes and runs another 9-8, we're like, oh my gosh, we need this is a guy. This guy's a world championship threat. But what to you would be in the gray area where you're still scratching your head about how quick he is?
I know this might sound high, but in my mind it makes sense. But if you run sub 10:10, if you would run like 10:08 or 10:09, win legal, I would be like, maybe it was real because
Mhm.
typically the best sprinters in the world who go on to run 9.8s and 9.7s and 9.6s early in the year, they run 10:0 something. Like they you look back at a lot of like those Florida early season meets that some of the top sprinters are running, they're all running 10:03, 10:08 as a season opener before they start getting into their sub 10 form a few months later. So if you were to run 10:08 or 10:09, even though it's not that fast comparatively to his 988, it would give you
Mhm.
pause because you'd be like, well, that is a time that typically elite runners run at this time of the year. And, it'll make you
Yeah, but in this case, he would have already
second guess.
run the elite time. I get what you're saying as an opener, but then you're asking him to go back in time and run a
Yeah.
time that's 2/10 slower. How would
Yeah.
that line up?
It just lines up in my head. That's how it lines up.
But if he's
That's
already
how
run the 988, how do you go backwards and run a 1008 and be like, yep, that makes sense. He'll eventually get down to 988. Apparently, he's already been down to 988 already. My
Yeah, well,
number is
he could have had a bad start or something like that. I just think
okay.
that his baseline needs to be sub 10:10. Like if he goes out and runs 10:2, then you know that it was all a Fugazi. I mean, we know it's a Fugazi, but if he runs 10:2, you're like, all right, he's a 10:2, 10:1 guy. He's already run 10:16.
That's what I'm saying.
We
He's
know
already
that.
run 1016, so that
Yeah.
doesn't like a 10 something wouldn't surprise. I would need something closer to. I'd need a sub 10. Basically, I would need a sub 10 or some sort of weird situation where he's into some insane headwind and you do a conversion and it works in that way. What do you anticipate he's going to run?
I think he's going to run like 10:18.
Mhm. And
What do you
then
think he
what does
thinks?
what does World Athletics do?
Well, eventually they're going to take away the result. That's what World Athletics is going to do. They're going to be like, oops, pretend you guys didn't see that. World Athletics can just pull it. Oh, yeah, well, that wasn't real. Sorry about that. No
Surprised me.
one's checking the
It
website. I,
it
I, I
surprised me
think
that he didn't.
I think the main question is one, first of all, we should try to get him on the pod. That would be fun, especially if he goes out and runs fast. But two,
I
does he
told
think
you.
he's a 988? Does he think he's a 988 guy? Like, is that what he like? Does he go to
Yeah, I don't
bed?
know.
Does he have dinner with his family or with a
Mhm.
significant other, being like, you know, I'm a 988 runner. I'm the fastest man in the world.
Man, I'd be
Like,
screenshotting it all day long.
I guess has
That's
he
what I'd be doing.
tweeted? Has he Instagrammed that he's the fastest man in the world? Let's find his Instagram. Let's do a little look. First of
Those
all,
of you,
look at it.
those of you listening, not watching, Gordon is
He
going to
has a
talk you
great
through
Instagram
Instagram right now.
profile. Oh wow! So look at this person. He's calling out the haters. When you run fast, people always question and criticize. Keep running it back enough to shut them up. Ooh,
Mm,
been there,
all
done
right.
that. True. So he's. I mean, if you look at his Instagram story, there's a lot of dashes at the top. So he's definitely been going through the internet
Mhm.
and seeing what's going on. So he
The
thinks it's
dashes
real.
correspond to how fast you ran that weekend. If you have a ton of
Yeah.
dashes, I can tell you how fast you ran. If you have barely any dashes, you ran bad, DNF, DNS, something like that.
Wait,
So
is he going pro? That's what this says. Did you just turn
that's
pro?
probably is that a is that an April Fool's thing? I don't know what's going
I
on
don't think
anymore.
so. It's from 16 hours ago. He went pro. Holy
I
crap.
don't know. I don't,
Did he go pro? I think he
not
went pro,
sure.
maybe. I
I'm
mean,
reading these. This
maybe we'll just never know. He's maybe just going to retire in the sunset and be like, I'm forever the fastest man in the world. I'm pro
not
now.
a bad not a bad move. Not a bad move in my opinion. End on top. That's the way to do it. I'm
He
not
might be
sure.
pro
I'm
now.
not. I hadn't heard anything. The person I talked to who had some information about what was going on over there was that he was going to run this weekend. So we'll see.
I think this is real. I
Um,
think he's going pro. He's forfeiting his JUCO eligibility and will be turning pro. Congrats. More details to follow.
well, congrats to him then.
All right, so hey, maybe that's a reason to think the 988 might be legit. Man, he's the most interesting athlete right now in the month of April of track and field of all time. Like if you had to take a power ranking of
Yeah, yeah,
April impact performances in the history of April,
yeah.
he's definitely up there. That and Michael
Well, and
Norman's
this,
like 43 at Mount Sac.
yeah, this is building all sorts of anticipation for Saturday. He runs on Saturday. It's going to be must see. People are going
Where
to
does
be
he
just
run?
refreshing that results page. I think he's running at Azusa, but the Mount Sac schedule has them at another meet. But what I had heard was Azusa. I'm assuming there's a meet at Azusa, but that's what I heard his next scheduled competition would be. There's a schedule. Travis is just doing a lot of work here, pulling up all this info. Is there anything? Yeah, Jim Bush Legends meet. That's I don't know if that's Azusa. I mean,
No,
at the
that's not
very least, I
Azusa.
think
That's UCLA.
that's UCLA. Yeah, I think at the very least he's going to be at Mount Sac, obviously. Mount Sac relays.
But if he's on
So
Mount
at the
Sac and
very,
he runs a relay, you can hide the split again. So,
I think he's going to run.
dude, he has a great
He's going to run.
dude. I'm learning so much about this guy in real time. Great Instagram handle, Lil Too Smooth. It's great Instagram.
Mm-hmm. All right, so keep
All
an
right,
eye on it.
I'm kind of leaning on maybe it's real. I'm not gonna lie. I woke up this morning with 100% belief that there was a fraudulent world leader on our books right now. But now, 17 minutes into this podcast, that thought is kind of fading a bit, and maybe the
So
988 is
hold on,
real, all because of
hold on.
his
What
Instagram
was?
stories of him going pro, him talking shit on people who are doubting him, and
Mhm.
I want to be on his side. It's fun. It's fun to just live in the la la fairy tale land that the 988 is real. Because how cool would that be if it is real? How crazy would it
Yeah.
be that a random kid from Mount Sac Junior College, who
Mm-hmm.
from Las Vegas, Nevada, your hometown, Kevin, and
Yep. Yep.
like all this, and like everyone has doubt on it. The internet's kind of saying it's not real. He had these weird false starts in his outdoor 60s. What if the whole story turned out to be real? It'd just be great. And he
Oh, it
does
would
the
be
performance on April
incredible.
Fools. It's great. It's great.
Plot twist: next race he goes 9.78. Then what do we do? Then what happens?
No, the real plot twist is he does
9.88
978.
baseline.
He does 978, but like you can clearly tell he false started, and you can clearly tell they stopped the clock early, but we just continue to go along with the grift. We're like, no, it was 978. And we just like he's in cahoots with all the timers, and forever everyone just knows it's not real, but no one will say it. And then we just like,
Yeah,
all right, no, I don't know.
it's
Hey,
track. You figure these
World
things out.
Athletics is calling him a 988 runner right now. So
Well,
until
and
that changes,
that's
I guess we have to believe him, right?
and that's where if I was him, if I were his coach, I'd be like, yeah, the governing body of this sport says it's legit. Is legit. Don't argue with me. Go look at the website. It's right there. Once it got put up there, everything changed with how the time is perceived. Now again, they might change it later on, but they didn't have it at first and now they do. So David says the real proof that the 988 is suspect is all others in the race improved an average of 0.22 on their entry times, all of them. What are the odds?
The odds
Was it exactly
aren't
point 0.2?
good.
I did see that. I
I'll
did
tell you
see
that.
that. Was it everybody that had point? I saw the first couple. Was it literally every single person was an improvement of 0.22? Because yeah, then you're talking about I don't even know what they would be. One in
I
a
know. It's just
one
sometimes
in a
it's fun
billion.
to believe the lie. That's all I'm saying. It's fun to believe the lie.
I don't think we should call it I don't think we should call it a lie. I think we should call it an error. It's an error.
Okay, it's fun
I
to
don't think
believe
anyone's
the air.
lying. Yeah, no one's like lying here. It's just the time got reported as best they could. Once it gets out, people start repeating it, and then you have the governing body in the world putting a stamp of approval on it. But I don't think there was any nefarious intent here in terms of what happened with the time.
Do you
You're right.
think
In
the
terms of
time?
April storylines, this is up there. This is a great early April situation that we have.
Do you think?
Okay, so he signed
This
with an
is
agent. This is
yeah,
what yeah, okay, this is
yeah.
legit.
That's what I
We're
was
putting
saying.
the picture up right
He
now
went pro.
where he signed with an agent.
Here's the thing:
So that
if he gets a pro contract purely on a made up time, that is the ultimate. You know, not grift, but it's the ultimate like, hey, get what you can moment. I don't know. It's just kind of hilarious if he's able to parlay a fraudulent 100-meter time into a contract. That's pretty badass. Hey, get your money,
okay, so
man.
everything
Take it.
wasn't I'm looking
Take the
I'm
money and
looking at the
run.
comments here. It says the minimum improvement was 0.16, average was 0.22. So not everybody was exactly 0.22. That would have been obviously unbelievable at that point. Um, okay. Well, you know what? Maybe. So, do you think? I mean, how much does this is a silly question, but is the 988? I mean, 988 is the thing that gets you the contract because I don't think a 10-1 is getting you a
Yeah.
contract.
No. Yeah. Of course not. Unless this contract could be kind of a fake contract, similar to the time where it's like, oh yeah, we'll give you some shoes and a t-shirt, and now you're a pro. There's a lot of those contracts out there that aren't legitimately pro contracts. So
Mhm.
maybe his pro contract is 0.22% less than what
Or
it
maybe it's
should be,
pending.
or it's
Maybe,
pending. Yeah,
maybe, maybe there's a clause in it, right? A clause in it that says, "Hey, this is the first step, and then if you go under 99 again or under 10 seconds again, then I'm just envisioning again. Good for him. Get a contract, get paid to run. That's awesome. That's a dream come true. Go for it. But I'm just imagining this scenario where this weekend he runs 10-2. Then what happens?
okay, how about this? What if he runs 10-2, but he beat Ronnie Baker in the race?
Well, yeah, that's legit. That's obviously
Yeah,
legit.
but Ronnie Baker could be also in cahoots to like, yo, I'll show
No, let's
up,
go.
I'll lose to
There's
you
not this
to
many conspiracies
legitimize your
going on. There's
988.
there's not this many conspiracies going on. I think Occam's razor here tells us that there was some sort of error with the time. But again, once World Athletics says it's legit, people are going to start believing it. You know,
Well,
again,
World
not
Athletics
taking
is
anything
just
away
wrong.
from him. Well, I'm not taking anything away from him. Obviously, even 10-1, legit talent. It's just that big of a jump you don't see. All right, let's move on. What do we got next? You want to talk about? Oh, Athing Mo. Hold on a second. Before we do that, Travis just sent us something. Oh, you want to read this, Gordon?
Yeah, well, it's a long paragraph, so hopefully you didn't put any uh, statements I'll regret saying. But he said since they didn't use an actual timing company, since they didn't use an actual timing company, it was just done by the school. His guess is that they had an error at the hundreds and the hurdles, basically the straightaways, and they had to go to hand timing for those races, and then likely had people on the watches who don't know how to do that correctly and started to watch when they saw the athlete move instead of smoke from the starter's gun, which aligns with the video evidence. So basically saying they handed out popsicle sticks at the end of the finish line and like, all right, you got first, you got second. It's cross country style. That's
Well,
probably what it was.
but my question is, doesn't I wonder what athletics does, or I wonder what the people, even agents out there who are curious, like, do they ask those sort of questions? Like, do they call the timing company? Do they follow up? Do they say, hey, why aren't these times listed on your site? Does any of that take place? That's what I would want to know.
Yeah. Because I think it would be, imagine if he runs like 10:01 and 10:05 like the rest of the year and consistently. Like
Yeah,
that's a good runner. That would be like someone
yeah,
who
yeah.
should like be making USAs and stuff like that. But then you're like, all right,
Hmm.
but he has a 988 on his resume, which is the fastest time in the world. I don't know. We're talking
Well,
about
right,
this in
and that's what I.
circles. But
No, but I think that's a good point because in track, small amounts of time are a big deal. So this is what I talked about in This Week in Track. You're basically talking about the difference between if you go 988 to 1016, you're talking about solid JUCO runner versus a guy who could medal at the global championships.
yeah,
That's what you're talking about. Because if you're running 988 in April, that's not the same as 988 in June, right? So, all right, let's keep it rolling here. Thingmo
What else?
is running Penn relays. She's running Penn relays, Gordon. I can't think of a runner currently better suited for the 600 than a Thingmo. She's great in the 8, 155. She's great in the 4, 49. She ran a really good 600. It was almost like her coming out party in 2019. Indoor US champs, that 600. She goes 123, beats Raven Rogers. That's when you knew, okay, she's going to be good. She's going to be good in college. And as a pro, she's going to line up outdoors, run a 600. Caster Semenya has the world record in this event, 121.7. Ajay Wilson is number 2. She's running the 122s. I think for sure Mo can go under 122. I think number 2 all time is a good bet. And if she's in really good shape, I think she can break that world record. Her 800 time is a little bit behind Semenya's, but her 400-meter time is better than Semenya's. And I think there's just a lot more there with a Thing Mo. Like, I think a Thing Mo's 800 eventually is going to get into the 154s, which isn't saying much because she's already run 155 low. That's not a crazy prediction. So I'm excited to see her in this 600-meter distance because it's a perfect distance for her. I believe Ajay Wilson is also entered in this race. We'll get the full fields later on next week. But Thing Mo, for the first time, competing at Penn Relays at the end of April.
Yeah, and we talk about world record. I think she's the type of person who could just shatter it. I don't even think. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Caster Semenya is one of the all-time greats, but the thing, Mo, I feel like we don't even know what her true ceiling is. And I
Mm-hmm.
swear, I think she could break 120 in her career. I think she could run sub 121, 119 something in a 600.
Whoa.
I think the question is, what type of fitness level are you at this moment in a season, right? End of April.
Yeah.
While it is April, it is the end of April. And, like
Yeah.
1 or 2 weeks later is the first Diamond League. So it's not that early in the season. I think there's a chance she could be super fit. We just don't know. She didn't really do much indoors. She kind of was like, playing track a
Distance
little bit
focused
indoors,
indoors.
doing distance stuff. So, but we don't know. There's probably been some good workouts she's been putting down over the past month or so, and I think we might get something. I don't think we're gonna get. I'm just happy to be here. Race. I'm just here to get
Mm-hmm.
my feet wet. Race. I think she's gonna run something quick. I think she will 100% be top 2. I think she'll beat Ajay Wilson's time, and I think she'll be legitimately chasing Caster Semenya's time.
Yeah.
Whether she gets
Yeah.
it, I don't know. And I think the only reason she doesn't get it will be purely based off of the time of the year and not based off of her ability.
It'll only be 6 weeks until USA's. At that point, she said she was going to focus more on speed outdoors because indoors she ran those mile races. So we saw at the Texas relays, she ran a 4x4 leg, split a 50. I think she's going to come at it from the speed side of things, which is why I think she's running something shorter distance. Obviously, Penn is having a 600 too, so that makes sense. Grew up in New Jersey. I think it's cool that she's finally getting to run this meet. But yeah, it doesn't get any more suited for the 600 than a Thing Mo. It doesn't. Like there's not a. I mean, you could go back to like Juan Terena, who obviously won gold in the 4 and the 8, or Krashlikova 4 and the 8. But in this current era, right now, it's Semenya. You could even go back. All right, Rudisha, he ran some quick quarters, but relative to the competition, his quarter was not nearly as good as a Thing Mo's quarter is. She's the best in the world in the 800. She's one of the best in the world in the 400. If she just focused on the 400, I think she could medal at that event. So putting her in the 6, right in that sweet spot.
Yeah. Thomas Lester asked, what's up with all these odd distance events at Penn Relays? 300 for Felix, 600 for a Thing Mo. I mean, we get these odd events a lot in indoor, and a lot of times the reason why top athletes love running off events is because they don't like showing their cards of their fitness in the actual events that they do. That's why sprinters are all doing relay splits right now. You know, they're all doing the 4x1s and 4x4s, but not doing open. There's just something
Yeah.
about top athletes' mentality. I mean, not
For
I
Mo,
had
though,
this
I think it
mentality
serves a
as like a
purpose.
Division 3 athlete in college. I I enjoyed not running my actual event until as late as possible in the season because you kind of didn't want to know your actual fitness until that actual moment. So you kind of like, all right, let's do some relay splits. Let's do some off events to see, just to kind of trick your brain into thinking, oh, I'll show my final form when it matters most.
I think
It's
for
a
Mo, though,
mental
it
aspect.
makes a ton of sense. It makes a ton of sense for her from a preparation standpoint because it's smack dab in the middle of these two events
True.
that she's great at. We think she's going to focus on the 8 and not the 4, but she's legitimately awesome in both of those events. I think also too. I mean, Penn is about the relays, so some of these individual events are going to be off events. Chance to chase all time marks too, because when you go to, it was good. Do you want to talk about Bermuda now or Boston Marathon scratches?
Let's talk about Boston scratches a bit.
Sarah Hall
We'll end, we'll end with Bermuda.
s- scratched. Kenenisa Bekele scratched. Start first with Hall. She runs a lot. She races a lot. This is going to happen. We saw her at Tokyo. She's running the World Championships in Eugene. She said she wants to make sure she's 100% for that race. I don't think anybody's going to get upset at Sarah Hall having to go from like 4 marathons a year down to 3 or 7 race appearances down to 6 or 5. When you sign up for as many races as she does, these sorts of things can happen. So, not entirely surprised. The field is still really strong, both overall with 2 of the big 3 running, but also on the American side when you have Seidel and Linden in there as well. So, still going to have solid American representation if you're looking at it from that perspective, and a chance for Hall to get right by the time the World Championships roll around.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of rare to see Sarah Hall scratch because she runs a lot. I think though we need to start having a conversation about Bekele.
I've been having this
Is it
conversation for
over?
years. Yeah,
Is
we've
it
been
over? It's over, right? It's done.
as what? As a guy who can contend for a major in a hard field? Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
but
That's
but he's gonna be like, I'm running London in the fall, and we're all gonna get excited about it again.
yes. Well, you might
Like, when will we stop getting excited about Bekele?
never because we remember him from the track and we remember him from running 201:41 and almost breaking Kipchoge's record, but there was never a rivalry between him and Kipchoge in the marathon. That one London race, he DNS'd the night before, and then Kipchoge had the worst marathon of his career. Kipchoge is the undisputed greatest men's marathoner of all time. You could talk about, okay, when you include the 5 and the 10, where does he stack up? Yeah, Bekele. David Monti had that great stat, and it was a couple marathons ago about Bekele's completion rate in marathons. How many he actually completes versus how many he doesn't even start, and then how many he starts but doesn't finish. And it was what, 50%, basically?
I would love to know. Do you think Bekele has a stipulation in his contract where he's able to say, "Hey, you can say I'm running at your meet for like a 10% athlete fee, and then but I'm going to scratch as used as like a fake promo 6 months
Yeah.
out." Like, is Boston Marathon in on the game of like, hey, let's just say Bekele's coming. We know he's going to scratch, but it gets a little bit of juice on the first press release of the athlete field, and then in April we'll say, oh, by the way, he's not coming.
Well, I mean, that's exactly what it does, is because he's a headline because of all the accolades from his career. But how often does it come to fruition? I mean, last year he ran 2 marathons, and this is him getting healthy. And I give him credit for running these 2 marathons. I didn't think he'd get to the start line in both of them just based on his history, but he was third in Berlin in 206 high, and then he was sixth in New York in 212. 2012, we know he didn't run London scratch before. 2019, that's where he had his great marathon in Berlin. So you're looking at 20, 21, and now into 2022, where he hasn't had any sort of performance that would let you know that he can contend with that top tier. Forget Kipchoge. I'm talking about the next tier, the tier after that.
So Bekele is kind of like the LeBron Lakers years. I mean, look at LeBron in the past 4 years. They only won a playoff series in a bubble, and the other 3 years, first round
He's still
exit,
putting up
and
numbers
didn't
though.
qualify.
He's
Still
still
put
putting
up
up numbers though.
numbers,
LeBron's
but in an NBA context of what matters most, which is playoff performances, LeBron the past 4 years is, if you just take that, you would be like, that is not one of the all time greats. But because it's LeBron, we're always going to get excited about the next potential playoff run. And these past 4 years have only been hit 1 out of 4. And Bekele, we're always looking for the next great marathon run, but
mm-hmm.
his hit rate isn't going to be there anymore because it's not Bekele from, you know, 10 years ago, and it's not LeBron from 10 years ago. So basically, what I'm trying to say is Bekele is LeBron
Yeah.
James, and Kipchoge is
Well,
Jordan.
if it was anybody else, we would stop talking about them at this point.
Exactly.
If there was somebody who was 206 and 212 last year and then has a scratch rate of or DNF rate of 50%, we wouldn't talk about him anymore. I get why people want to talk about him. He's a superstar within the sport. He is a superstar. So it makes sense to talk about him. But Boston, though, reloaded, they added more people as well too. So it's still gonna be, I think, the deepest Boston marathon ever. We talked before when they announced the field about why that is, but it's still gonna be a great Boston marathon coming up in a couple weeks. In the chat, we got a question here from David. Does Mo have a better chance of breaking 47.60 or 153.28? Caster holds a 600 record, 121.77, which may be the only record Mo can break. Yeah, Mo can break the 6, as we talked about. What does she have a better chance in? The 8. 153.2, I think, has much better chance of going down than 47.6.
I think she could split 47.6 in a 4x4.
Unfortunately, that does not count for a world record, though, Gordon. So there's these two types of events. There's relays and there's open events.
Hey, there are a lot of
I
people
like your
out there.
positivity.
There are a lot of people out there roaming this planet who go around and go to bed at night every day and wake up every morning referencing a split as their PB. I'm just telling you, it's a
Yeah,
thing. People
God
love,
bless him.
so if the real world is
No,
doing it, I'm willing to. All right, okay. If she were to split 47.1 on a 4x4, okay,
yeah,
would you say she's the fastest 400-meter runner of all time?
no.
But her open is like 47.8 or whatever.
No, she's got to do it in an open. 40. Felix said 47.7. So I understand your point that she could run sub 47.60 in a relay. I think that's doable, but that's not what the question
Yeah.
was. I think. Do you think the 153.2 is possible in the 8? Because I'm
Oh
starting to
yeah.
think it is, just based on how comfortable the 155 low looked.
Yeah.
Still a ways to go, but she's obviously young. She'll get a lot of opportunities. But 800, much better chance than the 400. Much better chance. I don't. I don't even see them as close at all. All right,
Yeah.
Bermuda,
Bermuda. But what's that song? Come on, honey, go.
Kokomo.
That's where we. Okay.
We will
Uh,
go
yeah. Let's talk about Bermuda.
way down in Kokomo. All right, let's start with the 100. Men's 100. Start at the
Men's
top
100.
here. Baker, Bednarik, Bracy, Knighton, Lyles. You got the entire men's 200 team in there with Lyles, Knighton, and Bednarik from last year's Olympics. You have Baker, who made the 100-meter team. You have Bracy, who had a spectacular indoor season in there as well. Who do you think this race matters the most to out of that group?
Ooh, matters the most to. I'm gonna say Noah Lyles. I think Noah really wants to get back as being a relevant 100-meter guy. We know he's smooth sailing in the 200, coming off of getting another medal last year, coming on late in the season. Um, and I think with the way that the 100 is on the world level, with the way Marcel Jacobs is doing it, with the return of Coleman, the way Fred Curley's running, I think Noah wants to be like, hey, I deserve to be in a conversation with those three guys. In order for him to be in that conversation, he needs to start running legit 100-meter times at that level. And there was a moment when Lyles was challenging Coleman. Not sure what year it
Yeah,
was. 18 or 19? What year it
that
was?
was early 19, wasn't it?
Early 19, maybe? Yeah. So he has been at that point where Lyles was in that conversation. But, look at trials last year. He was just a non factor. He finished in like
Hmm.
sixth, seventh, or eighth or something like that. So,
Seventh.
seventh. I think Lyles is probably looking at this as an opportunity. There's a lot of different guys out there where wins over them matter, like beating
Hmm.
Bracy, beating Baker, beating a Bednarik, beating, I guess not really Knighton because Knighton's young, but beating one of those guys or
Yeah,
basically winning this race would be a good statement of like, hey, the 100 meters is not a three-way tie between Curley,
yeah.
Coleman, and Jacobs. It's now a four-way tie. And by the way, I'm also one of the best 200-meter runners, so watch out. I could maybe double. So I think for Noah Lyles, this is the best statement race he could have.
It would validate what he did indoors, which was PB in the 60, string together a bunch of solid races, and put together better starts. What it also would do would put him on a path to a better 200. Because if you remember last year, we look at it in retrospect, this is how he opened 2021 in the 100: 10:08, 10:17, 10:10, 10:05. Those are finals. He didn't break 10 seconds before he got to the Olympic trials. I think in retrospect, that spelled trouble for his 100. Now he gets under 10 seconds at the trials, but it's too late by that point, and he gets seventh. At the same time, his 200s, solid, but not spectacular. He didn't really run. He only ran one before trials here in a 1990. So I think this is significant for him. And I agree with you. Out of anybody in the field, I'm looking most at him because I think he needs that solid beginning to his season to show, hey, what I did indoors was not just confined to indoors. And I'm going to go back to being a 1 and 2 threat, not just a threat in the two. I think it moves in tandem. I think the thing is he's just so good at the two that even when he's off, he was still able to win trials and he was still able to get an Olympic medal. But I think 2021 was just a rough year for him, and he spoke about that publicly. So I think this race, this early part of the season, you could just look at April into the first half of May. I think is important for him to carry that momentum from indoors to out. So he's the one I had circled. Um, Also, I would say Bracy, just because of how he ended the 60. I think it's important. But then you look at someone like Baker, whose indoor season wasn't good. He wants to be able to bounce back. Knighton and Bednarik, we didn't see during the indoor season, so you want to see more from them. But you also think, all right, well, we didn't see them indoors, so more margin for error. Like it's going to take them a little bit more time to get going.
Who would be the one person winning this race that would be like, who winning this race, a name that's good, but them winning it would make you think that's not like, it'll give you, it's like a Elias Garcia moment. It's like, wait, no, there's something wrong with this result. The way we're thinking, there's something wrong with that
Well,
988.
you
Like,
have head-to-head competition, so there's
we
no.
have had competition, but like, what would be the most shocking result winner? Because I feel like Baker winning,
Well,
Bednarik, Bracy, Lyles, all
I
winning,
mean,
it wouldn't be shocking because you're like, all right, yeah, you're all like 9-8 guys, you made Olympic finals type guys, any of you guys winning. But who would be a
Yeah,
person that has a chance to win, but if they did win, you would be kind of shocked? I have a
I'll give
memory
you
for
two names. I'll give you two names. One, Johan Blake. I mean, it's weird to say you'd be shocked that a 9.69 guy won, but these are his last couple years PBs: 995 in 21, 1015 in 2020. Ran 10 low. 996 in 19, 994 in 18, 990 in 17. He hasn't been sub 990 in the 100 win legal, Gordon, since the 969. But his name is Johan Blake, so he's still going to get mentioned even though he's 32 years old. That's one. Two would be Knighton. Two would be Knighton because all those other guys, you could see them, Baker getting a win, Bednarik getting a win, Lyles getting a win. Um, they're so experienced. I think a Knighton win would be surprising enough, even though he showed so much ability last year, just because he's still so young in his career. And then your mind would immediately go to, wait a minute, now he's a solid, like he's a 100 threat too. Like this kid's going to be a problem for everybody. So those would be the two.
Yeah, I agree with you on those two. Um, I'm gonna go even crazier.
I mean, I also could pick the person with the slowest PB. Is that the game here? Like
No, that's not the game. I'm
who
not go Trey
well,
Houston of Bermuda, 1022 PB. No,
yeah,
I
yeah, that'd be an
think
upset. We would
a person that would be kind of like someone like a Mike Rogers winning. He's
Yeah, of
kind of like
course.
a
Yeah, yeah.
he's at like a journeyman status. He keeps on finding a way to still be in it. I remember interviewing him like 5 or 6 years ago, saying like I'm retiring from indoor track, and like he was running indoor track for 5 more years after that. Um,
Yeah. I love it. Do it.
but I think someone
Do
like
what you
him
love.
winning would be pretty shocking.
Yeah. All right, the
He
women's
did run.
100.
He ran a 6:55:60, so it's not like he's not washed yet. So
Yeah. I just think when you have a lineup that's not just solely focused on one or two athletes, the chances of obviously that upset occurring are so low because it's like Baker, Bednarik, Lyles, Bracy, all of them would have to have off races for some of those guys to get in the mix. I think Lyles needs to race more. I'm needs to race most, or it's most important for him. But I think like the person I'm most curious in seeing is Aaron Knighton. Like, what's his? Let me look at Knighton's PB here. We know him from the 200, but his 100 obviously is solid as well. I just haven't seen 1016 is his 100 PB, and he's run 1984 for the two. So, yeah, if Knighton wins and runs 999, that'd be surprising. I mean, I guess not altogether surprising, but that would be a warning sign to everybody else. All right, women's 100. Ready?
well, before we get to the women's 100, I want to tell you about a dream
Oh,
I had last night. So when you go to
okay.
bed late and you're dealing with
Yeah.
painkillers on your shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
your brain kind of goes wild. But I had a dream involving the men's 100. And my dream was that we were in Eugene at the World Championships.
Uh-huh.
And as a bit, because I'm stupid, so sports gambling is legal in Oregon, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I decided to bet $10,000 on a 10-1 to medal in the 100. And it hit. And I won $100,000. And then I gave
Okay.
away $10,000 of the 100,000 to all the viewers on the podcast. That's exactly what I did
Wait,
after. It
who?
was
What
great.
did you bet on? Say it
I
again.
bet on a 10-1 favorite, not favorite, 10-1 odds on the 100-meter dash for someone to medal. And
Yeah.
I bet
Who?
$10,000 on it, so I won $100,000.
Who would you bet on though? Who was the person?
I think it's kind of hard to remember, but I think it was like a Bromel or something like that to
Okay.
medal.
And then you
Like it
gave
was
your money to the people on the podcast.
So I bet $10,000. Then I won 100,000 because it was 10-1, and then I took 10 grand of that 100,000 and I gave it out to like on Venmos up to people who were listening to that podcast on the next on the show that night that we did like the live show. I was like, hey guys, I just won $100,000, so I'm giving 10K away to everyone who's listening, and I did it.
You and I are
So
different tax brackets. It's crazy.
I mean, it's a dream.
All
It's a
right.
dream tax bracket, bro. It's a dream. You know that, right? So,
I never dream. I don't even dream about stuff like that. I don't even dream about. I get worried, even get nervous, even dreaming about betting $10,000.
but maybe, hey,
Um,
maybe if things go well, maybe I'll try to pull it off, and we actually make a dream come a reality. And see what happens
I
in
think you
Eugene.
should. I wouldn't want to be around you though if you lost 10 grand. That would be rough.
But would you want to be
If I
around me
pay
if I
you,
won 100 grand? You'd want to be around
also
me if
you'd
I
be on.
won 100 grand.
If you gave me some money, but if not, you'd be insufferable.
You
I mean
get
that
percentage. You're
the two.
part of the FloTrack podcast.
Here's the two times you don't want to be around Gordon: when the Sixers win, or when, well, three times: when the Sixers win, when the Sixers lose, or when he wins a bet. Those are the three times you don't want to be around Gordon.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Very
Um,
true.
Anthony in the chat says 9 PB is 9.99. That's win dated though. I was talking about win legal. That was what, plus 2.7. It looks like. Uh, David says, speaking of odd distances, Gordon on a one-speed Schwinn old school bike racing Mo and spikes at 300 meters. Vegas has Gordon at minus 125. You bet on yourself there.
I know. That's what I thought too. I agree with it. I mean, 300, though, by the time I get up to full speed, she's probably going to be like 150 meters to go. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
Gordon was
If you,
on a tiny bike for that NC State workout. There's a little bit of behind the scenes. It's like he was in the circus riding that thing around. It's good.
yeah. So when you're watching the workout Wednesday today, the second half, you might hear some heavy breathing going on the bike. It's because I don't want to. It's not because I couldn't keep up. Well, I couldn't, but bike. I'm sitting on like a female bike, so the seat is really low. So it's kind of like riding like a circus bike. So my
Yeah,
knees
it's
are
great.
really high up, and it's just really hard to get momentum. So just keep that in mind when you could be like, man, Gordon, they're running 70-second laps. You should be able to keep up. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We got to keep rolling here because we
Okay.
got to get to other events here. Women's 100, you got Gabby Thomas, who just won the 1 and the 2 at the Texas Relays. Tanisha Chera, Cambria Sturgis, Destiny Smith Barnett, Kiara Parker, Tiana Daniels, and Tamara Clark. Clark ran really well at Texas Relays too. But let's throw the 200 in there as well for the women. Desiree Bryant, Jasmine Camacho Quinn, who also is running the high hurdles. Yeah, what stands out to you there?
Well, the first thing that stands out is a name that's not there. Sha'Carri Richardson. She was billed as going to be at this meet. She was in the
Mhm.
graphic that they were promoting. And unless things change in the 11th hour in the final few days, no
Yeah.
Sha'Carri makes you think, all right, what's going on? Why? It's time in the season where typically people are running, right? I mean,
Hmm.
everyone who didn't run indoor is basically running this meet. If people ran indoor, they may be taking a few more weeks off. But no
Yep.
Richardson makes you kind of question, what do you think it is? Do you think it's on purpose, an injury? I just don't want to do it because I don't want to go to Bermuda, do that 3 hour flight. Uh, have you had any
Well,
thought on why we're not seeing
didn't
Richardson
hold
yet?
on. Didn't you just say you were gonna have a moratorium on Richardson takes, like last pod?
I did.
And that was on a simple question: what she'll place this year at World Championships? And now you want to guess on why she's not running at the Bermuda Games? No, not. I don't know. No clue. No clue. Hope
But
she's
don't you
well.
think it's kind of,
I
if
don't have an idea.
I don't know, I just think our sport needs to be a little more forthcoming with why certain athletes aren't in it. If you're going to promote an event with an athlete and the athlete's not there, should people have
Yeah.
to like be like, oh, they're not there because of XYZ. We have injury reports in every other sport except for track and field.
Yeah. I think what you do need to establish, what we could establish, is basically a deadline, right? And if people don't open by whatever the day is, say May 1st, then you start asking, all right, what's the deal with that athlete? And that's legitimate to wonder, because if you're a fan of the sport, you wonder, hey, when's my favorite athlete going to come? But I don't think that's the beginning of April for
Okay.
most pros. I
When's
think
the
if we don't
deadline?
see anything, but that's what I'm saying. Let's set a date right now. Let's you and I
Okay.
agree. And if you're watching in the chat, you can put a time in or a date in. I'll go with May 7th,
I'm going to go
5
with
weeks before USA's.
Now, this deadline is only for people who did not run indoors. If you ran indoors, you can do whatever you want because you can come
You're
back.
exempt.
You're
Yeah.
exempt from the deadline. I'm going to say the deadline is May 2nd.
Okay.
Basically, you got to run before May starts. And if you do, you can run the first weekend of May is basically my deadline. First weekend of May.
Okay.
So it
So
overlaps a
if we
bit.
don't see, if there's big names we don't see, the first show after May 2nd, then we can go through the list. Hey, where's
Then
this person?
we can
Fair?
officially send them to Cancun as like they are not going to make a. That'll be actually the thing.
Like,
How many
like the
people
Lakers.
will make? How many U.S. athletes will make the world team that don't run until after May 1st?
Well, exactly. And that's the thing. It's happened though. That's the
It
point. Like
has.
we've seen people, yeah, we've seen people almost debut at USA's or run one race before USA's. It's rare because usually it's indicative of something going wrong when you don't see them.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's have that discussion May 2nd, whatever this first show is. Let me look at
Okay. Put it on the
my
calendar.
calendar. That'll be post Penn, basically. May
Yeah.
2nd is a Monday.
Perfect.
So that'll be our first show post Penn. So the second half of that show, we'll go Penn the first half, second half can be where are these people? Have we seen them yet? Um, Grant Holloway. What do you expect from Grant Holloway?
Um. Well, before who do I think is going to win the women's 100 though? I think I'm most excited.
Thomas. What's
We
Thomas?
talked about the 100 and
Thomas.
I was like, I'm just going to talk about the athlete. It's not there, but I'll say
True.
these three athletes I'm most interested in. Here are my three athletes. My Gordon's three athletes I'm interested in. I'm interested in kind of this is a combo. I'm going to do Mount Rushmore. I'm interested in the Mount Rushmore of Gordon interest. Interest number
Okay.
one, Gabby Thomas. She's ran a good 200 at Texas Relays. I want to see what she does in the 100. Similar to kind of my interest in Noah Lyles in the 100. Gabby Thomas is like my female Noah Lyles. We know what she can do at the 200 level. She has yet to really put together I can win it in the 100 level. So Gabby Thomas, if she wins this race, that's like, watch out. Gabby could potentially become
Yeah.
pull off the double. So that's athlete number one. Athlete number 2 and 3 is Cambria Sturgis and Twanisha Terry.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's incredible that their PBs are 10.7s, right? And they're very young. They're a year or two out of college. Cambria Sturgis went to North Carolina A&T, Terry at USC. And in college, the fact that they were running these top times and being like, ooh, watch out for the young kid. Let's see what you got. They kind of
Yeah.
had like that raw college feel to them to kind of like mix up with the big people. This is the moment I want to see if their college days are fluky or not. I want to see if they can come in, not necessarily run their PB because they're not going to run 10.7s,
Yeah.
but if they come in and finish in the top 4 of a race, run a solid 10.9 or 11 flat or something like that to show that like they made that good transition into the pro world. And then my last person I'm most interested in is Tiana Daniels. Because Tiana Daniels has the most fascinating running career I've seen while at Flow. You're not sure if you remember her. She won the NCAA
Mm-hmm.
Indoor 60 as a true freshman. No one was talking about her.
Yeah.
She wins NCAA as a true freshman. Then she kind of just has like an average. She's make All-American type. She doesn't
Mm-hmm.
take off at that point. She kind of flatlines for sophomore, junior year. And then senior year, she comes back and runs well. And I think, did she win or get second to Sha'Carri? She might have got second to
Well,
Sha'Carri.
she carried one. She carried in
Yeah,
1075.
that's true. That's Sha'Carri. She
Yeah.
got
I don't
second to
even think she got.
Sha'Carri, but
Did
then
she?
Tiana went on and made the world team. Even though she got second NCAA, she went on and made the world team to show that, like, hey, I may have lost my NCAA final, but I'm now making world
She was
teams.
fourth. She was fourth behind Kayla White and Twanisha Terry. Final.
Oh, she was fourth. Okay, she was fourth, but she made the
Yeah.
world team. She made the world team.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I look
Yeah.
at her being like, hey, I'm not going to be splashy. I'm not going to have these crazy performances, but I'm going to show up when it matters most, and I'm going to
Yeah.
find a way either to be top 3 or top 6 be on that 4x1 year in and year out. No one is going to be like, ooh, what do you think Daniels is going to do this weekend? Because everyone's going to be focused on Sha'Carri or focus on the new
Yeah.
young person or focus on Gabby Thomas. No one ever is going to focus on Tiana Daniels her entire career, but she's going to make a world team, 3 out of 4 times every 4 years, which I think is kind of cool. So I'm excited to see what she does.
Yeah, you're right. She's always in the mix. She's always in the
Yeah.
mix. And I think now you always mention her though. So I do think that people have started to learn that lesson of never to count her out because she's just solid. And listen, that women's 100 that year, it's like Richardson runs 1075. What are you going to do? And then
Yeah.
White and Terry go 95, 98. I mean, it was a really fast year. I'll throw Clark in there. I want to see Clark after what she did Texas Race. She was really close to Gabby Thomas, and she's training with her as well too. When you talk about people trying to bridge the gap from college to pro, she's one to watch as well. Listen, dude, I think we ran out of time.
You know
The
what?
good news
We can
is,
talk more about it on Friday.
yeah, Friday we'll do hurdles. We got Camacho Quinn and Grant Holloway. Excuse me. We got some some sneakily interesting 400s as well. I could explain that on Friday, and then you have Ajay Wilson in the women's 8, and then we'll just touch on everything else because this is going to be a fun meet, and it's on Saturday, so we can still talk about it on Friday. I want to jump into the chat one more time before we go. Someone says kind of hard to apply the deadline, talking about the May 2nd deadline, to all because Hansel Parchment didn't run until Jamaican trials, and then boom, he's Olympic champion. Yeah, I'm not saying after the deadline, if you haven't run, I'm kicking you out of medal contention. All I'm saying is that's when I'm going to wonder, hey, what's up? What's going on?
It's true.
It's not going to be on April 6th, like Gordon
I'm
wants me to
fact
do.
I'm fact checking that statement because that seems kind of wild. I didn't know that. I don't see this.
It happens more
Wow.
often than you
Yeah.
think.
No, he did run. He ran his first race on June 11th. So he didn't make a debut at Jamaica Champs. Not Jamaica Champs, Jamaica National Champs. He ran at a Florida meet on June 11th. But he ended up
Fact
running a
check.
lot. Like he ran 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He ran 9 meets. Like that's a legit. He just maybe, yeah. I mean, the fact that he made his season debut 2 weeks before his national championship is kind of rare. I mean, imagine if someone would make their season debut like June 11th at like the Portland Track
Yeah.
Festival and then go on to make a world team. It's kind of crazy.
But you can find people. But this will
That's
be
true.
good because it'll allow us to keep track of it for at least this season, and then be like, wow, that person didn't run early in the season and it didn't matter at all, or man, that person didn't run and it's because they were hurt or because something was going on and they weren't able to compete. So I like the May 2nd deadline. I think it's a good spot to start discussing it. Anything else in the
Dude,
chat? Let
I'm
me
looking at
see.
Hansel Parchment's result. He got 4th in a 110 hurdle in the first meet of the year, running
Yeah.
1387. He ran 1387, getting 4th. And that's the
Yeah.
guy who went
Yeah.
on to win the Olympic Games,
Think
beating
about the odds you
one of the
could have got
greats in the
there.
game.
You could have gotten more than 100,000 on that one. Fake 100,000.
That's crazy. 4th in a random rinky dink Florida meet, running 1387, which is not a good time. And then he runs 1304 in the final at the Olympic Games and beats Grant Holloway. That's just crazy.
Well, he was good,
Obviously he's good, but
he like those times weren't indicative of how good he was. But at the same time, it was still a big upset because how good Grant was running. It's kind of
yeah.
weird. It's like it would have been an upset even if Parchment was running solid, but he wasn't having a particularly bang up season, and then he went and did that. So it made it seem like an even bigger upset because like, man, Parchment, that was out of nowhere. Okay. FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com is the email address. Subscribe to the FloTrack Podcast YouTube channel. We got all the content up there, like Gordon mentioned, Workout Wednesday with NC State women. We got This Week in Track, my weekly 5-6 minute breakdown of everything that happened in the world of track and field. Also, I did a race breakdown. We're going to throw back for Penn relays. Noah Lyles, 45-second 4x4 split. Do you remember that one, Gordon? That was pretty
I
cool.
do. I do.
Yeah. Splitting 45 in high school is fun because chances are you're running against somebody who's not running 45. And the lead that you had is going to be gone. So that was a fun one. We got your NCAA ranking show coming up. And then I'll do an update to my pro rankings at a few more events coming up later on this week. But we'll do the rest of the Bermuda Games preview on Friday, and we'll have the pickup challenge as well. Thanks to Travis. Thanks to Colt. Thanks to you, Gordon. See you guys on Friday.